Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at NECA's Predator 2 Ultimate Shaman Predator, and I haven't looked at one of these guys in a long time. I think the last one I reviewed was that big one with the light up feature. None of these regular Ultimate figures, and this one looks really good. I don't know if NECA's just stepping up their paint all the way around. It kind of seems like that, but this thing is painted wonderfully. There's a whole lot of really cool stuff going on with this guy. There's one thing that I'm not thrilled about, but otherwise it's a pretty solid release. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about, we'll call it 21.25 centimeters, and that's going to be roughly 8 3/8 inches. Here he is up against Darwin. He has some significant size. Darwin comes up to just about Zinnaples, and that's going to make him roughly 1.3 Darwins. Pretty good height on this guy, good size. I know they're supposed to be 7-inch scale, but I think that's about good, right? For 1/12 scale? How tall is a Predator supposed to be? I don't know my Predator lore as well as I'm sure most of you do if you're watching this, so let me know, how tall should this guy be in real world measurements? Like 15 feet? I know it's not that high. Okay, so let's do a quick question of the day. How deep do you guys go with your Predator collecting? For instance, Predator 2 Predators had about 0 screen time, roughly speaking, other than the main one. There were a couple other ones that had like maybe 30 seconds, but then others not so much. So let me know how, if you're like into this sort of thing or if you're not or whatever. But this is a damn good looking figure. Let's go ahead and talk about the aesthetic. We will start with all of it because it's all going to be on screen right now. Look at that. I don't know how they get that mesh painted so well. The fishnet, like, it's not absolutely perfect, but how? How do they paint it that well? And this doesn't cost that much more than, say, like a Marvel Legends figure, one of the more expensive ones, but still, not only does it have the incredible paint job throughout, like all of the skin tones and everything, all of the shading, all of the texture, all of that, but it has all of the sculpted detail and the mesh is painted on top. Like, how do they do it for the price? All the little details are painted nicely. There's at least some kind of, it's a wash maybe, or some dry brushing going on, probably both for the cloth pieces. All the little wraps are painted. The rings on the hand. Let's look at the face. The eyes are dead center perfect. I mean, as much as you could ever hope them to be. It's kind of hard to tell because they're so sunken in. He looks cross-eyed, but he's not as far as I can tell. The mouth is painted well. All the details on the head. This is one of the better looking figures they've done. And I like it because it kind of looks like that one that I reviewed. Like, it was a Kenner one. I think it was called the Ghost. The Ghost Predator, maybe? I can't remember. Anyway, I like the white coloring. It's very cool. It's kind of like an off gray, but still, or an off gray, an off white light gray. Very, very nicely detailed. This has to be one of their better paint jobs ever for a Predator, at least. Very nicely done. Love that. Sculpt is wonderful. The only thing I don't like about the sculpt is that we still have the net launcher thingy hole right there, which it's not a huge deal, but it'd be nice if they just invested in a leg that doesn't have the hole for the ones that don't use it. Not a big deal, but still. Okay, so aesthetically speaking, this thing is 9.5 out of 10. It is really, really good. I'm thrilled with the way this looks. I guess the eyes could be a little bit darker. Like the spots around the eyes could be a little bit darker, but that looks pretty darn good. I'm very pleased with that. Now, as far as accessories go, this guy's no slouch in this department either. We have the 2 open hands, then we have a couple different gripping hands, and one that looks like it's not a gripping hand, but it still is. So that's pretty good. We have the 2 throwing discs, one that's open, one that's closed. We have a knife, skull and spinal column tomahawk type thing. No idea how that works mechanically speaking, but it looks cool. So you get that. You get his big spear with the little dangly bits. That's cool. You get a little bloody skull, human skull. You get an alternate head for him where he's wearing some kind of bone mask of some kind of other predator. I don't know what's going on there, but it looks pretty cool if you're into that sort of thing. Very nicely put together, like that a whole bunch. And then you get his little shawl, or whatever you want to call it, his cloak. And that's the thing that I mean, it's cool, but also it's not. And I'll talk about that for a minute. The reason it's cool is they did a good job with the material, I think, and the weathering. It has nice weathering going all the way around, the bottom in particular. little holes here and there. It looks pretty good. It is wired all the way along the perimeter, not at the tattered parts at the bottom, but it is wired this way. And then it's also wired across the top and for the neck. So it's not bad in terms of like the actual craftsmanship, but you guys can correct me if I'm wrong about this. I'm just going on this. His is only going over one shoulder and going off this way. At least that's what it looks like in this image, and I don't know if this is accurate or if this is accurate or whatever, but this it's a little cumbersome to put on this guy, and you'll see at the end. I'm not going to do it right now, it would take too long for the video, but this looks a little bit cumbersome, and this is way less. So you guys can let me know how you feel about that, especially if you're very familiar with the character. But still, that's a really good spread of accessories, so I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 for accessories. What else could you want for this guy? I can't think of anything. Is there anything on the cover? No, it's just a spear. Yeah, it looks pretty darn good. Like, NECA's really hitting it out of the park. Firing on all cylinders. Whatever other saying you want to use. Alright, let's talk about the articulation. This could be a downfall. We'll see. Alright, the head. It's a little stiff. There we go. It looks up nicely. A little bit of lollipop going on. Looks down pretty well. Side to side is really good. Full rotation. That's pretty good. If you don't take it all the way up, it's not really lollipop. It's just if you force it all the way back, you can see inside the joint. So it's just a gap. But that works pretty well. I'll take that. Shoulder pad is connected to the arm, so we should have decent range here. Well, it gets in the way still a little bit because of the dreads, but you can get the arm up to horizontal, so that is good. No problem so far. Full rotation. Bicep swivel. The joints are good so far, guys. This might be a winner here. Double jointed elbow works nicely. No problem at all there. Good range. No stiffness. No problems. Wrists have a swivel and a hinge. That's all fine. Hinge is a little tight, but nothing to worry about. Let's try this shoulder. Now, this one does have the pad right here, but it might flex enough. It's connected to the shoulder, but let's see what happens. Yeah, it looks like that pad does get in the way, so a little bit more limited on this side. Not much they could do with this other than connect it much lower, but you still get your bicep swivel and all the other range, and joints are fine. So it's just that the shoulder pad gets in the way. So far, joints are good on this guy. Diaphragm joint, it feels more limited than I would like, but it's not stuck. So it doesn't go back all that far, but it's not bad, and it goes forward well enough. I'd say that's okay. Side to side works pretty well. Nothing's stuck. Everything's moving nicely. Could probably eke out a little bit more range from that, but it's not a stuck joint situation. It's just the way they decided to design it. Lower torso has a ball peg that leans a little bit forward and back and a little bit side to side, and then you get your rotation. So far, joints are all good. NECA seems to be doing a lot better with the stuck joints on most figures. I'm going to be reviewing... Let's see if I can speak English. I'm going to be reviewing another NECA figure today. I'm not publishing it today, but I'm filming it at the same time I'm filming this. It's got a ton of stuck joints, so we'll talk about that in that video. Let's try the hips. This side's going to be limited because this is very chunky. Very chunky. And this side's fairly chunky too. I can't get the hips out any farther, and it looks like we are using the old style hips for sure. Seems that way. Not the ball sockets, just the ones that are a problem. So they don't go very far out to the side due to the skirt. Let's try going forward. Oops. Let's try going forward and back. Forward. Forward's not bad, at least on that leg. That's pretty good. Let's try this one. A little bit stuck. Is it actually stuck or... Not sure what's going on there. It doesn't really want to go. Alright, well, not surprisingly, this older mold, older style of hip is not working as well. This leg's much better. This one seems to be stuck a little bit. They don't seem to be messing with each other, though, so that's weird. Huh. Thigh swivel is alright. On both sides, that's good. Double jointed knee, standard double jointed knee, that's going to be just fine. And then for the ankle, it's a ball peg with decent range. It's not too loose, so that's good. So, out of all of the joints, we only really have one stuck hip, and a little bit of limitation in the hips in general. But that is not too bad. Especially considering the sculpt and paint and accessories, I think you are getting your money's worth out of this figure. I'm gonna say the articulation gets an overall rating of... I'll go 8. I'll go 8. It's mostly pretty darn good, considering everything else too, yeah. I think it is definitely a good value overall. Everything put together, You're not going to see this much paint in 15 different Hasbro figures put together. You're not going to see this much sculpt in 15 different Hasbro figures put together. So, yeah, for the price point, I think it's pretty darn good. So I'm going to give it an overall rating of 9 out of 10. It is really good. The articulation does suffer a little bit, but the rest more than makes up for it. This is gorgeous. If you're into this sort of thing, definitely pick it up. There it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. In the meantime, keep collecting.